Welcome to Beacon of Speech. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. Ted Coley.
Hello, Fred.
Beacon of Speech is still here. How the hell did that happen? Every time we do it, it's amazing. It's like we've never done it before. I'm like, wow, we're back. There's Putin.
This is episode 4 of the new.
The 4 of the new version. And there's Baker Mayfield. If you move your shoulder, Baker Mayfield's still here.
Yes.
Ted Coley, since I talked to you last, America has been in turmoil because they elected the horrible, the abysmal, the Antichrist, Donald Trump. I did not vote for Donald Trump. I voted for Chase. I'm going to scoot it just a little bit this way. I voted for Chase Oliver, the libertarian. Me and a handful of other nutcases. Ted Coley voted for
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. If we had any kind of budget, I would have brought confetti and thrown it on Ted's head. Ted called it. He said that Trump was going to win. Trump was going to win. He did win. Ted, your candidate won, and you predicted he was going to win.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about that?
No, I was off with the electoral votes, but like I said, going into it, I didn't have a lot of confidence.
And that's the thing. And this is why I bring it up, Ted. I bring it up because I read a lot. Ted knows that. I'm always reading websites, news sites, and they're like, Harris is going to win. Harris is going to win. The website 538, a website I trust, the day before the election, said it is a coin flip. They ran the election 1,000 times through a simulator. 502 times it came up for Kamala Harris. 499 times it came up for Donald Trump. And 3 times it came up as a tie. Well, it wasn't even close. The Donald Trump train left the station and it was all downhill. And the news media wouldn't call the election. They were waiting, not because they didn't know, because they didn't want to call it. They didn't want to believe it.
Yeah.
A lot of places where I read, where they weren't basing their opinions on their polls, everyone I talked to is voting for Kamala Harris. Well, if you're a liberal and you hang out with your other liberal friends, right? Because I talked to people who said, I'm voting for Donald Trump, and everybody I know is voting for Donald Trump. I'm like, who are you talking to? Right? So when you were talking to people, were you just getting the feeling of Donald Trump, or did you think that the American people were not going to be bamboozled?
Well, I don't talk to a lot of people, but the people that I was talking to, most of them were voting for Trump.
Right.
But once again, maybe that's all relative because it's like maybe I only talk to people who are like me.
Well, and that's the whole thing. But, and I'm going to stick up for Ted right here. Ted works a job 9 to 5, right? Ted's job is not the media, right? We do this, we do it for fun. One day we would like to get paid for it. But if your job is to be in the media, it is your job to talk to rich people,
right,
poor people, working people, and Nepo babies, right? How did you not, if you're like, everybody I talk to is going to vote for Harris, that means you literally did not talk to half the country. And I wrote about this, that I was furious that everywhere, I'll give you an example, and you'll get kicked out of this. Michael Moore wrote an article. You remember Michael Moore? Michael Moore wrote an article. He goes, everybody I talk to says Harris. And he goes, I think it's going to be Harris in a landslide. He wrote that a week before. Well, who do you think that Michael Moore is talking to? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. When we did the predictions here, everything I was reading, I tried to disregard people like Michael Moore and focus on people who did polling. And the 538 people, when they said it was literally a coin flip, I'm like, this is not, the media is not reporting a coin flip. Would you say that's fair?
Mhm.
And that's why I was so like, I'm like, people are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you know who was right? Ted Coley. Ted Coley was right because he read the tea leaves and he listened to the right people. Right? Now, go ahead.
No, no, I wasn't going to say that.
No, but let me tell you right now. If Rush Limbaugh was alive, we were talking about Rush Limbaugh before.
Well, let me just
Go
say
ahead.
this. It's almost like the mainstream media doesn't report the news. It's like they try to create the news.
And that's exactly where I'm going with this. Rush Limbaugh would say, and again, he's deceased, but he was always half right. I was a huge fan of Rush Limbaugh because Rush Limbaugh, he was equal time. And he used to say it all the time, I am equal time. The media in America leans left. He gives you the right counterbalance. The problem with Rush Limbaugh is that Rush Limbaugh never saw anybody on his team who was wrong. He never held their feet to the fire. And so he was just as bad on the right as the mainstream media was on the left. And so Rush Limbaugh would have loved this election. He would have came out the next day. He would have been throwing shot. I said we'd be throwing streamers at you. He would have been throwing streamers. He loved Donald Trump, right? I will never, until the day I die, I will never understand why Rush Limbaugh loved Donald Trump so much, because Donald Trump is a populist, okay? Rush Limbaugh was a conservative. The reason that Rush Limbaugh loved Donald Trump is because he would fight liberals, just like he would fight liberals. But fundamentally, they did not believe in the same things. And so eventually, when you don't believe in the same things, the fissures are created. But he would have been so happy that Kamala Harris was not voted in. And again, I am an oddball. I talk about libertarianism. Libertarianism was never going to win in this election ever. Okay. But it goes back, this election is another example about how you are fed things. The news, and this is what Ted hit it right on the head. The news creates a narrative.
Yeah.
They don't report the news. They report what they want to report and ignore what they don't want to.
Yeah, they don't report reality. They make their own reality.
Right. And so that's why I have to compliment Ted. And I wrote about it immediately. I said, congrats to Ted, because he saw through it. He saw through the BS. My throat is killing me. So, but anyhow, Rush Limbaugh would have been happy. He would have been proud of Ted. He called it. And sometimes you just like to hear that you are right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were right. I was wrong. I said Harris in a landslide because this article, this article, this article, this article, this article. But it brings me to the next point. And this made me angry, and I have been angry about it ever since. Okay. Donald Trump, when he lost to Biden, he cried that it was a stolen election. Right? Now, it wasn't stolen. He was being a baby. Okay. This time around, why didn't Kamala Harris cry that it was a stolen election? And there's an answer for this. I don't know if Ted knows it or not. Do you know why she did not cry?
No.
It came out yesterday. While the media's quiet and having Thanksgiving dinner with their families, the head strategist of Kamala Harris came out and they said, how come you're not saying it's a stolen election? And he goes, do you really want to know why? He goes, yeah. And he goes, is it because you're a good sport? And he goes, oh, no. And he leaned over to the microphone. our internal polling showed her losing the whole time. And the reporter said, what? What? All these news media they're like, well, they reported what they wanted to report, but our internal numbers had her behind the whole time.
Wow.
And he said, and there was a lull in October where we were afraid it was going to be a landslide. We didn't tell anybody. We told her to go hard in the battleground states. And he said, we were scared. And so when they said he lost, we're like, well, the polls were right. What polls were the operatives for the Harris? You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What polls were they looking at if the polls that were being released to the public and ABC News and CNN were showing her winning? Do you see what I'm saying? Which again goes back to narrative. They're like, oh no, our polls said that she's losing. We didn't call CNN and CNN didn't ask us. They're like, you are asking us after the fact, right? But we never came out and said we're ahead. The media reported it, and I'm like, well, their polls must be different than our polls, but our polls are pretty good. And they're like coughing, and they're like, oh, they're like, we're as surprised as you were that they were reporting it, which is a real disconnect in the country.
You know what else is amazing? It's like, what are there, 7 battleground states?
7 battleground states, yeah.
Up to those 7 battleground states, everybody got that right.
Yeah.
Where Harris starts off with 226, and I
Yeah.
think Trump starts off with 219.
Yeah.
That was right?
Yes.
None of those switched.
Right.
That's amazing when you think about it.
Yeah.
How it comes down to just 7 states.
Oh, and that's the whole other thing. The one girl, it was a week before election, and she said Iowa's a toss-up. Well, they're like, we got Trump winning Iowa by 16.
Well, I remember that's the one thing that made you think it was going to be a landslide was when you heard that she was even winning Iowa.
Right.
So that was a complete fabrication then.
And then this is the other thing. The girl in charge of that poll is a government employee, right? So they said, listen, your poll was 16 points off, if not more. What do you have to say for yourself? And she goes, you know what? I don't need to be questioned like this. I retire. Right? Which again goes back to, did she manipulate the poll?
It has to be done on purpose.
And that's the whole thing. Rush Limbaugh.
It has to be, what is it? Wag the dog or whatever?
Yeah. Rush Limbaugh used to bitch and moan. He said, you have to know what polls to trust and which ones not to trust. You have to look at their data, who they're asking, whether they're asking average Americans or if they're asking likely voters. And he used to talk about the Rasmussen poll. He used to say, follow the poll that you trust. Well, I don't trust the Rasmussen poll. I don't even know if it's around anymore. I trust 538. And when 538 said a coin flip, I said, oh, well, that's curious because everything else says left. Maybe they're hedging. You see what I'm saying? So, but again, a coin flip is still closer than what CNN, NBC, CBS, ABC, MSNBC. A coin flip is closer to reality than what they were reporting. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm looking at my thing right here because there was a number of things I wanted to make sure I got to. I did not want to get bogged down on the election because it's old. So, but I wanted to make sure on the record, that I congratulated Ted because Ted was right. Congratulations, Ted.
Thank you, Fred.
What do you win for being right?
Nothing.
And that's what's wrong with America. You can be right? And nobody cares, and you can be wrong. But if you pay people, they think that the wrong information is right because they're the ones who paid to get their information out there. So again, what is truth? What is false? You're like, well, beacon of speech is nothing but crap. You know what? We might be full of crap, but we're no worse than anything out
Yeah.
there that people are getting paid for.
That's our commercial.
What? So let me talk about something else because I want to dwell on the election. Jake Paul fought Mike Tyson. Ted Coley said, "Who are you rooting for?" I said, "I'm rooting for death." I said, "That's the only way these idiotic boxing matches are going to end." Ted, Jake Paul won. Do you have a reaction, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson?
Well, the one thing I told you is that Tyson is what, 58?
Yeah.
And I said I wouldn't fight him if he was 98. Because, I mean, you still have those skills no matter how old you get.
The thing is, and me and Ted talk about this all the time. We talk about people, how much they're worth. Now, we were talking literally right before the webcast started. We have some old bosses, right? We don't want to mention their names. But would they be able to make that money at a different job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our friend Steve, nobody knows who Steve is, so we can use his name. He will never make that amount of money again because he's running a scam at the job he's at now. If he lost his job today, he would never make that money again. Okay? So let's use the same analogy for Mike Tyson. What could Mike Tyson have done to make $20 million? Literally nothing else. So if you made $500 million in your life, Mike Tyson declared bankruptcy like 8 years ago. So somebody says, "Listen, you can box, we'll give you $20 million. He was never going to make $20 million again.
So when he did this fight,
right?
Does he need the money?
Yeah, he needs the money. He's got no money. And when I say no money, somebody will pay him like $5,000. Can we use your name on breakfast cereal? And it'll be like, yeah. For $10,000, can we use your photo at the used car store? Yeah. So he has some money. And when I say some money, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? But not millions. To go from 500.
So where is he living now?
Oh, I don't even know. But they promised them. Jake Paul says, "Listen, all you have to do is dance around with me and shove me a little. You get $20 million. It is hard. It is hard for Mike Tyson to turn that down. You see what I'm saying? So I don't begrudge Mike Tyson at all. But I have to say, I do feel bad for him that, he had to take it. But again, if me and Ted say we're going to pay Fred and Ted $20 million a box, listen, Ted, don't hit me. And we're going to use big oversized gloves.
So that is what Tyson got paid for that?
Yeah.
20 million?
20 million. Which again, even if you're 58, that's almost Ted's age, right? Someone's going to give you 20 million, and I promise not to hit you hard, Ted. Well, Ted might be like, "I don't know, I don't trust this guy." Right? Or he could be like, "I don't care if I die in the ring. I want that 20 million. I'm going to retire." Mike Tyson is going to burn through that in about a year. Drugs, women, he'll probably buy another tiger, right? Mike Tyson will not put that in the bank. But I want to be clear. There were two winners in that fight. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. Okay? And Mike Tyson made $20 million. There's no other way he could have done it. Right? No other way. And all the people who paid for it or Netflix or watched it or did whatever, it was a big giant scam. So again,
weren't you one of those people?
It's all a scam.
Weren't you one of those people who paid
for it?
I
fell asleep. But I have Netflix. I didn't pay for it.
Okay. So it's not like a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It was if you have Netflix, you already get it.
Yeah, I already got it. So I get scammed out on Netflix anyhow. But talking about real sports, yesterday, OSU-Michigan, they had a game. And did you watch the game?
I watched I don't know, maybe like the last quarter, which I don't normally watch college football.
Yeah.
But lately I've been watching a little bit.
Well, I got to tell you, Ted, I tell Ted all the time, I have been angry, angry, and I don't show it. Ted, would you say you're angry? You're more despair than angry.
I'm more despondent than angry.
Yeah, yeah. So, Ohio State played like
good for me.
Ohio State played like crap. They were 20-point favorites and they lost. Now I'm gonna.
Or when you ask me that question, are you talking in general, or are you talking about the
in
game?
general?
Yeah,
just in general. So you can't blame the coach for a kicker missing 2 chip shots. Okay, they should have won. They had better players. The field goal kicker should have kicked better. Chip Kelly should have had a conservative offense. It all came down to Ohio State should have won and they didn't. So I was angry. Okay, but you know what made me happy? The riot after. So Michigan says, Ohio State, those cocky bastards, we're going to plant the flag in the middle of the field. And the Ohio State players said, you ain't going to plant that in the middle of the field. Excuse me. And so they all mulled toward their mulling in the middle of the field. Did you watch it live?
Yeah, I did see that.
I watched it live too. And I'm watching and they're pushing, they're shoving, they're pushing, they're shoving. And I'm like, good. They should be mad, right? I'd be mad. I'm mad. I'm glad that you're showing how mad I am.
You know what gets me, you know what makes me mad though, is when the announcers act all offended.
The world's coming to an end.
It's like, well, then don't show it if it's so bad.
Yeah, don't show it. And let's say I get mad at Ted. Okay, I get mad at Ted. And Ted, you're saying crap I don't like, right? And I start shoving him. Well, guess what? He has no protective gear on. Those guys got shoulder pads. They got helmets on. They can shove each other till the cows come home. We ain't gonna fucking hurt. Excuse my French, right? But the announcers are like, oh, no, fair play. And no, I want them to fight. I want them to fight afterwards. And then here comes the highway patrol, right? Here comes the highway patrol. The coaches aren't doing a great job of separating them. And here comes the highway patrol. And then one of the announcers says, I smell pepper spray, right? Good. Pepper spray the Michigan team. They'll teach them not to put the flag in the field. And they're like, oh, this is horrible. I'm the other way. I'm like, woohoo, where's my confetti? Every controversial game should end with the police spraying tear gas into the fans, into the winning team, into the losing. Let's have fun and let's really mix it up.
I guarantee you, when that skirmish started, nobody was changing the channel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But everybody acts so offended. Oh, this is terrible. This is...
Yeah. And they're like, we're going to investigate the highway patrol. Investigate them they won't stop fighting. They won't listen to highway patrol. First step, you take out the billy club them in the knee. You can't do that because they're college kids. Spray them with pepper spray. I was happy. It was one of the few times I had a smile on my face. They're pepper spraying Michigan players, and I'm like this. That is awesome.
So they were pepper spraying players?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. And me and my son talked about this, okay? He goes, well, a couple of the Ohio State players said they got pepper spray. Do you know what pepper spray is? Listen, here's pepper spray, okay? Let's say I'm pissed at Ted. I'm like, Ted, goddamn it, I hate you. And I spray Ted with pepper spray. Well, what happens is the stream goes in his eyes, but parts of it goes off into the air. So let's just say 2 highway patrolmen are spraying pepper spray. They're getting pushed. They're getting shoved. Pepper spray is going all over. They're wearing helmets, which means pepper spray is bouncing off the helmets and going everywhere. So there's a mist of pepper spray. So they're like, well, our team got pepper sprayed too. Yeah, your team got pepper sprayed because it bounced off the Michigan helmet. And like I said, I'm happy. I've got a smile on my face now talking about it. I wish half the games in this country ended that way. Instead of, we lost. No, I want to see that fighting spirit. I want to see and
so like I said, since I don't watch college football, how often does that happen that a team does that with their flag? Is that
Well, you're not supposed to do it because it's being a bad sport.
Yeah.
But in the last 5 years, sometimes players will sneak out and try and plant their flag in the other team's logo when they're not looking. Well, the Ohio State coach got wind of it. If you notice, the Ohio State coach didn't try and break him up. Ohio State coach was over in the end zone. And I'm doing it like this, right? So I'm looking at the camera. Ohio State coach was like this. Well, there's nothing to see here. He's not breaking up the fight, right? The Ohio State coach has plausible deniability. You know who's up trying to break up the fight? Not the general manager, the athletic director. Athletic director's trying to push his team away. Hey, no, let's not fight. No, I like the coach's idea. Puts his arm crossed, right? Good for them. Have at it. Now, this right here is why Beacon of Speech isn't popular. Everybody is condemning the Ohio State riot. I'm like, woohoo! One of the announcers was mad, okay? And he said that when he was in the Ohio State-Michigan game, it was Kirk Herbstreit, I believe. He said when the game was over, he was so exhausted, he couldn't fight, right? And that these players had all this piss and vinegar left in them. They should have left it on the field.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So is he accusing them of not playing hard enough?
Is that what?
Is he accusing them of not playing hard enough?
Yeah, and that's kind of what Herbstreit's saying. But to his point, well, at least they cared enough to riot. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's why I'm happy. And they're like, well, what are we going to do in the future? Nothing. They're going to be talking about that fight for 50 freaking years. They're going to be talking about it like when Woody Hayes punched that guy in, what was it, 76? What year did he punch the Michigan player?
Oh, I think that was like 78, maybe?
78? They're going to be talking about this for 50 years like what Woody Hayes did.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm happy. Good. That shows a little piss and vinegar. And again, we're not walking down the street. We're not at the mall. We're not Christmas shopping. I cannot punch Ted while we're shopping because he's mad or because we're arguing. Okay? This is a football game. They're all loaded up with equipment. Nobody's going to die. And if you get pepper spray in, well, go take a shower and wash it out of your fucking... You go to the showers as soon as the game is over. So
yeah, I did see that, though.
But I was happy, because, again, it means something to them. They're showing the fighting spirit. Whether it's the time or place, listen, football, and I say this all the time, football is a game where you try and knock the other guy out.
Yeah.
If you're on offense, you're trying not to get knocked out.
Yeah, you have more of a chance of getting hurt during the game than you do in that.
So if you're like, well, they got to behave now, part of me is like, they're football players. What do you expect, right? How are you going to get them from the field to the locker room? If they want to brawl a little bit, they're in full pads. I don't care. I really don't. We're talking about the modern version of Roman gladiators. So, and this is a little off topic, but I want to bring this up because not a lot of people know this, and I wrote about it a few weeks ago, and I want Ted's opinion, okay? There's a few football players who say they can only be as good as they are because they're good Christians and they follow the teachings of Jesus, right? Now, when did the NFL start? I'm being serious, Ted. When did the NFL start? You don't have to give me an exact date, but when did it start about?
What, the NFL?
Yeah, the NFL.
Oh, God. Well, I don't know. Was it like in the 20s or?
Let's say 1928, just to argue. Okay? If somebody is like, well, Jesus wants me to play football, number one, I find that hard to believe. Okay? And this is why. back in the year zero, were there sports? Now, there obviously wasn't the NFL, but were there sports? This is my question to Ted. Were there sports in the year zero?
Probably not. I mean,
that is where you're wrong. So in the Roman Empire, in the year zero, they had boxing matches, which goes back to Jake Paul.
Oh, they did.
And Mike Tyson. They had boxing matches, right? Now, anywhere in the Bible does it say Jesus was at the boxing match? Okay? Does it say anywhere in there?
No.
They said in Jesus' time, there were three very popular sports: boxing, wrestling, and chariot racing. Okay? And they said the chariot racers in Jesus' time actually made pretty good money. The problem is a lot of chariot racers in the Roman Empire died, okay? Because they're in the Colosseum and they're racing other people and there's no rules. So you push the other chariot over and the chariot's probably going to fall on the guy, or the horses are going to trample him to death. So there was a high mortality rate, but not everybody who boxed or wrestled died. Is there anywhere in the Bible that says Jesus says go to the chariot races? Spend the holiday with your family at the chariot races? No. Is there anywhere that says Jesus loved a good wrestling match? No. And again, I'm not saying that
I don't know how anybody could like wrestling.
Well, but that's the whole thing. Jesus, those things existed. There's nothing about them in the Bible. Now, there's Roman books that talk about wrestling, and this chariot racer made 20 gold coins per race or whatever. So there's history documentation, but there's nowhere in the Bible that talks about, if Jesus loved sports, he could have put it in the Bible. In your spare time, besides praising me and my Father, make sure you catch that chariot race on Friday night. You see what I'm saying? But there's nothing in there about that.
Yeah. So now the boxing back then, I assume there wasn't gloves, right? It was just like
bare knuckle.
Yeah.
But again, and I know a little bit about this, not a lot. But in the late 1800s, they did bare knuckle, and they would have like 2-minute rounds, but then they'd be like 40 rounds, right?
Here comes the hiccups, by the way.
And sorry about that.
Yeah.
But so they would wrap the guy's hands in bandages or whatever so their knuckles wouldn't split. But other than that, bare knuckles.
See, are you seeing that? I got hiccups.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Should I try and scare you? But so they wrap their knuckles. So we'll keep it short. I won't go too long. But my
people are gonna think I'm drunk.
That's okay. Do you want a pop or a thing?
Well, I'm afraid to drink anything because I'm afraid I'm gonna hiccup as I'm drinking.
Oh, okay. But anyhow, bare knuckles. It's bare knuckles.
Like I said, people will just think I'm hammered. So.
Well, right now we don't have it, so we're good. But bare knuckles. You wrap it up, and like I said, in Jesus's time, he could have said, but back to right now, people gamble on football, they gamble on baseball, they gamble on basketball. Nowhere in the Bible does it say Jesus says gambling is bad, except for chariot racing. You need to bet on, so and so, right? And that's why a lot of that's disingenuous to me. So I'm sorry to rant about that. There's a couple other things I wanted to get to. I wanted to do some short-term, long-term predictions. I wanted to make sure we wrote them down. And then, first of all, I wrote an article last week. It didn't get a lot of hits. It was the top 50 long songs that are 10 minutes or longer. Okay. And I'll show it to you after we're done here. but you could probably name about 20 of them on the list. A bunch of Pink Floyd songs, Zeppelin songs.
10 minutes or longer.
10 minutes or longer.
Is Inagata Davida on there?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is on there. That's 17 minutes, and I'll show it to you
God.
later. But my number one long song, and I'm not spoiling it, is Maggot Brain. Right? You know Maggot Brain.
Yeah,
know
I
Maggot
do.
Brain. We love Maggot Brain.
How long is that one?
10 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, so that just barely made it.
But like Stairway to Heaven, that's only 8.5 minutes long.
Only.
I put Roundabout by Yes on the list. I saw that was only 8.5 minutes, so I put on a different Yes song that was 18 minutes long. Right? But this is what I wanted to ask Ted. Ted used to be in a band called Wasted Space. What is the longest you played from the first note to the last note?
The longest song?
Yeah, No. Longest concert. Longest concert.
God. Well, I'm trying to think. Now we did, what was it, 3 sets? So the concert would last, I think, about, what was it? I think like 3 hours.
3 hours?
Yeah, but there were breaks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty long.
So I guess 2 or 3 years ago, the Flaming Lips said that they wanted to do a song, right? And they wanted it to be 24 hours long, right? So they set up the concept of the song that would be like 20 minutes. And then after a couple hours, they had like guideposts of where they wanted to go. Right?
24 hours?
24 hours. So I'll show this to you afterwards. And if you want, we'll do the song of the day. I'll make that the song of the day afterwards. I'll remember that. But I'm going to show Ted. So who's going to listen to a 24-hour song, right? Well, their concept was, it was a guy who I believe his girlfriend committed suicide. And he was distraught. And he didn't know how to express himself in poetry or words, excuse me. And so he was going to do it in song. But most of the song is music as opposed to screaming in the air like I do, right? So what they did is they started and they hit record on the computer. And I believe they said it was one take, but I don't have it in front of me. And it was 24 hours long, and they did it like our YouTube video, right? 24 hours long. And, well, how do you sell it to people? Once you have a 24-hour, and I'm being serious with Ted right now, how do you sell a 24-hour song?
So they played for 24 hours straight?
24 hours straight. And they only had like guideposts and ideas. They didn't have a song. They said they wanted to be spontaneous grief. Right? So they recorded it for 24 hours. And then at the end of the 24 hours, they had it on a computer, just like I'm looking at a computer now. And then they put it on a flash drive. And I believe they said they created 25 flash drives, put them in 25 human skulls, and then sold the flash drive to 25 people for $5,000. Right? So you just created a song and made $125,000 about, right? Now that's a good deal, right? Now, gun to your head. You get your friends from Wasted Space together. Could you create a 24-hour song in your friends from Wasted Space?
No.
Even if it meant making $125,000.
We were having a hard time creating a 3-minute song recently.
So what they did is they had a few of their guideposts and they created a 50-minute album out of the 24 hours. But I'm going to show Ted at the end of the day because I'm blowing his mind right now. Can you even imagine playing your instrument for 24 hours straight?
Well, that's what's more amazing to me is that they were playing for 24 hours straight.
Now, in the Flaming Lips, it's like 4 guys and a rotating musician. So I'm sure there's a couple of times where the lead singer walked off, drank some water, had a meal, went to the bathroom.
Yep.
This guy came off. So I guarantee.
So they just rotated.
Yeah, they're rotating musicians. And if they're eating, they're still listening to the music in the other room. But there's no way you could do that for 24 hours straight, right? Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's amazing. And my wife showed me the highlights of the album, which were 50 minutes. So that's why after 50 minutes, like I said, I couldn't stick with it for 24 hours. If I knew it was live, I think I could leave it on in the background. I wouldn't pay attention to it. I'd go to sleep, watch TV, make dinner. So to me, it's very impressive. That'll be our song of the day when I do the thing. But I'll show. But the whole point of the story is that I wrote an article, 50 longest songs, right? I put a ton of work into it. And then I told Jeanette, my sister, I said, you have to listen to every minute, and it's over 5,000 minutes of music. I'm sorry, 2,000 minutes of music. I said 5. I meant 2,000. I said, you cannot tell me if my article is good or not until you listen to all 2,000 hours. And she's like, I'm not going to do that because she's a snob. Okay? But the point of the story is that I put a lot of work into it. And then I did the article. I tried to promote it in normal places. 1 week later, how many people read that article, Ted Coley?
None.
12. 12. So despite me doing a very nice job with it, and I don't mean to brag, but I'll show you later. But now you're in the territory back to it doesn't matter if I'm right or not. I took a bunch of time, made no money on it. Nobody paid attention to it. And it doesn't matter if I'm right or not. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it is symbolic of everything we do, right? People who get paid thousands of dollars, like the pollsters, they're wrong. They still get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Ted is right. I didn't even bring over confetti to throw on his head. Okay? But it goes to show you why money dictates certain things in this country. And just because you pay more money, and this is ultimately where I'm going with this, is I am pissed, right, that everybody thinks because Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, that he is always right, okay? That guy is right probably less often than me and Ted because in our spare time, we're working or reading or doing other things where he's getting prostitutes pregnant and he's got 14 kids. And I have had it up to here with people telling me how smart Elon Musk is. Elon Musk is not smarter than me and Ted. He's just not. And so, like, if you watch us in 50 years, you'll be like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Elon Musk jumped off the cliff or whatever. He should have known to wear a double parachute or whatever asinine thing that guy does. I am just tired of feeling like he is smarter because he has $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, you can say I'm a jerk. I enjoy watching college kids get pepper sprayed. Let me do some predictions. I watched Ohio State, Michigan. First of all, I want to do some football predictions. So this is for 1 week. Okay, football predictions. Oregon versus Penn State. And I'm writing it down. I don't mean to shake the camera. Okay. Fred says Oregon is going to win by 30. I'm going to give 30 points. Oregon by 30 in the Big Ten championship game. I got to get a water while you think. Big Ten championship game, Ted, who do you got?
So it's Oregon and Penn State.
Oregon and Penn State.
Well, I have to be contradictory, so I'm going to go with Penn State.
Penn State. And you're just doing the coin flip. Penn State to win.
Penn State by 7.
Oh, Penn State by 7. Okay. Now, I also said that Putin was going to use a nuke by the end of the year. Ted said, no, he's not this week on Thanksgiving Day. And I'm writing this down. Nuclear weapon. Now, at the end of the day.
Wait a minute. Did he use one?
No. But I'm going to tell you the rest of the story.
Oh, you're Paul Harvey now? Now you know the rest.
I can't do the voice today because I got to practice and my throat's real raw. Okay? Earlier this week.
There he is.
Putin, right? He said, listen, I am not farting around. And I said, fart. He says, I am going to use that nuke. Did you see that ICBM I just launched? The nuke is next. The old president, remember when Russia had term limits and Putin left being president and he became the prime minister? The president came out this week of Russia, the old president, it's Putin again, and he said Putin is going to use a nuke. So, this is where we're at. Fred.
So he's basically saying it's coming.
It's coming. Fred, Putin, and I believe his name is Medvedev.
Yeah, he's got like a really weird name, Medvedev
or whatever. They all say that Putin is going to use a nuke. Now, you'd be like, Fred, do you really believe Putin? I'm going to tell you a quick story. Do you remember the guy who tried to do the coup?
Yeah.
Prednisone or whatever.
Prednisone.
When he did the nuke, he talked to Putin. And Putin said, when he tried to do the coup, he talked to Putin, and Putin says, we're good here. We're friends. We're friends. I forgive you for trying to do a coup. Go to Belarus, right? And people are like, wow, they didn't kill him, right? And then a month later, they said, wow, Putin let him live. Putin says, I'm a good man. I don't hold grudges, right? I believe it was 6 months after the coup, the guy who did the coup and every single one of his generals, they all got on a plane, right, from Belarus, and they were coming to Russia. And the plane magically exploded.
This was 6 months later?
Yeah, 6 months after the coup, right? And they went to Putin. And he goes, I didn't kill them.
Yeah.
They must have been playing with hand grenades. You remember that? And
on the plane, they were playing with hand grenades?
We were on the plane playing with hand grenades.
Yeah, because that's what
a lot of people said that Putin wanted to have them executed, but he didn't want them to make it look bad. And he wanted to see what generals were loyal to Putin and which ones were loyal to the guy who's doing the coup. He got all the people on the plane that were loyal to the guy who did the coup and killed them all, right? And then he smirked. He goes, I didn't kill anybody, right? I am telling you, Putin wants to use that nuke in a way where he will not be ostracized from the world community. Now, you would say, well, there's no way. As soon as you launch a nuke, you're already a pariah. I don't think that's true. I think that Putin is going to, and I told you this before, I think Putin is going to nuke Russian territory where there's Ukrainians, and he's going to say it's a defensive weapon. Okay? He's not going to bomb Ukraine. He's not going to bomb Lithuania. He's not going to bomb Finland, right? He is going to bomb the Russian part that has Ukrainians on it. Do you know what it's called?
No.
But now...
Do you know what it's called?
I know it's called. I forgot. I don't have it in front of me. So I think that he's going to do it The old president does, and Putin says he's going to do it. Now, excuse me, no nuclear weapon. Ted says no nuclear weapon. And this is where I am going to tell Ted. So on Thanksgiving Day.
So in other words, Putin launched that, what, ballistic missile?
Yeah, he launched some ICBMs.
There was nothing on it.
Nope, nothing on them. They're just missiles. Poof.
And he's saying, he's not saying, don't push me or whatever. He's still going to do it.
Yeah.
Even if we don't do anything else.
Yeah. He basically said, listen, you see those ICBMs? The next ICBM is going to have a nuke on it if you don't quit effing around. Right? And we said,
okay, so if we quit effing around, then he won't do it.
Yeah. Well, are we still farting around?
No.
Well, so this week, the U.S. government, they leaked it to the press, right? They said that Putin would never do it. It's all saber rattling. And the FBI and CIA have agreed that Putin absolutely would not use a nuke according to their intelligence. So I'm picking on you because the CIA and FBI says that Putin absolutely would not use a nuke. Just like when Harris's thing, they said, listen, he can say he's going to use a nuke, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through. There's a lot of Russians who don't want Putin to use nukes against Ukraine. Their aunts live there, their grandparents live there, their cousins live there. There's a lot of people who live in Ukraine who have relatives in Russia. And they said Putin is only doing it to scare the West. And that's according to the FBI and the CIA.
So their philosophy is he's not going to do it, so let's just keep pushing him.
And that's exactly right. Putin keeps saying, you fart around, we're going to do it. The CIA and FBI says, oh, no, you're not going to do it. Our intelligence tells us you're never going to do it unless we march on Red Square with American flags. Right? So back to what you said, Fred agrees.
It sounds like behavior where you're pushing somebody to fight.
Well, and that's exactly right. That is exactly right. So I still have my prediction. You have your prediction, but I had to tell you that the FBI and CIA agrees. Now, back to we get paid. I get paid by my employer to tell buses where to go. You get paid by your employer to tell where secure boxes have to go. At the end of the day, I don't really know Putin's going to use a nuke. I don't know Putin. And you do not have any contact to the director of the CIA. You are not in the real media. So we have to read tea leaves, okay? In theory, somebody is going to be wrong. Either Putin really is bluffing or the FBI is wrong. Now, the CIA and the FBI has been wrong before, but they've also been right before. You know what I mean? So I have to say for this prediction, we're doing Oregon, Penn State for the short term, but our medium term is the nuclear weapon. You have aligned yourself with the CIA, which you did not know when you made the prediction. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah.
And so that's why I had to laugh. And then, like I said, this week, the former president basically said, listen, Putin is not farting around. You better stop doing this. Do not give Ukraine any more long-range missiles. So are
we gonna stop giving them long-range missiles?
Oh no. This is my analogy. So we gave Ukraine long-range missiles, and here's Biden. I don't know what Ukraine's going to do with those long-range missiles. I can't control what Ukraine does, right? And the thing is, is that because Biden is so old and feeble, you don't know if he's really detached and it's the CIA and the FBI making decisions, or if he really wants it to happen, he just doesn't want the blame. Do you see what I'm saying? Now, when they sent the ICBMs from the United States to Ukraine, excuse me, when they sent the ICBMs, do you think that Biden knew they were sending them, Ted? Or do you think it was made by the state, somewhere in the state? They made that decision.
I think he knew.
You think he knows?
Yeah.
So basically, he's being Ryan Day. So
what do you think?
Oh, I think he knows. I think he knows. I think that Joe Biden in his 80s is an old school Cold Warrior. And he's still thinking of the Cold War. And in his head, and I don't mean to pick on Ted. I'm going to say this. I love Ted, okay? But I'm going to pick on you.
So when they say intercontinental ballistic missile,
yeah,
all that means is that it's long range.
Yeah, long range.
It can go far enough to go between continents.
Like here's a normal missile. Here's an intercollective. Vroom, right? Farther, faster, right? Farther, faster. But what I was going to say is that I love Ted, right? But let me ask him a serious question. Ted, do you sometimes remember things from when you were 25 years old or from 25 days ago?
Better with 25 years ago.
Yeah. And a lot of people, when they hit their 80s, they don't remember what they had for breakfast. They don't remember the whole decade of the 70s or their whole, not the 1970s.
Yeah,
but from 70 years old to 80 years old, I still think that Joe Biden, part of his brain is being in the Cold War.
Yeah.
And last week, I'm not just picking on Ted. Ted has a gray beard. Last week, I had a gray beard too. And again, sometimes my memory is better from what I did 30 years ago than 30 minutes ago. So, all right. I think I got everything. Song of the day predictions, long articles, Jake Paul. Ted, I want to do Beacon of Speech sometime before Christmas. My hearing has been terrible. Ted had the hiccups. I appreciate you still doing it. I'm Fred Hunt. That's Ted Coley. We are barely Beacon of Speech. Barely Beacon of Speech. We're going to make Beacon of Speech work, or else I'm going to go deaf. Oh, I didn't even hit the right button. I'm still talking. I'm going to be like old, crazy, feeble Fred, screaming in the air. Nothing works.